Takes its time. All right. It's 4:30. Time to call the meeting in order. Bernie, if you could do the roll call, please.
Hogan.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Chaney.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Burton.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Time for public comments. If anyone wants to address the council, come on up. You have 3 minutes to talk. Nope. All right. First topic is with Nick with firefighters.
Mayor, council, Gene, come on up.
Gene.
We are here tonight to recognize Gene Marlowe for 30 years of service to the city of Camas. Gene was hired January 2nd, 1990. I'm glad we got him here this year because his 25-year presentation, he skipped out on us. And so this is not something Gene likes to do, so we're very happy to put Gene on the spot here right now. Everybody knows Gene's involvement with this community, with Mean Gene's Fireworks, and all that he puts back into this community that he's worked for all these years. We wanted to recognize Gene tonight, congratulate him on his 30 years of service, and hope that he stays with us many more. Gene?
All right.
It won't be 30.
It won't be 30. You're expected to give at least 2-minute speech.
Well, thank you, everybody. I've seen a lot of change in 30 years here, and I'm just very proud to be part of this department and what it has become. It is just continued to get better year and year. We've just got a lot of great people in this organization, and the citizens of Camas are in very good hands here, and I am really honored to be part of this, and just part of Camas too. Camas is a great community, and I can't imagine landing in a better place than right here. So thank you guys all. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, and I'm not out of here yet, but we're getting closer. Anyways, thank you very much
Thank you for everything you've done for us, Gene. Thank you. Next, we have Cathy going through the 2020 limited general obligation bond issue.
Good afternoon, council, mayor. So here we are again, talking about a limited GO bond. We did this in 18 was the last one we did. This is our 2020. This one, we are looking at, oops, there it is. We're looking at acquiring 2 parcels as part of the legacy lands for a total of $17.5 million. 2.7 of it will be from the 2018 bond proceeds. We had budgeted that way when we sold those bonds for a part of it. We'll look at using REIT for almost 2.3 of it, and then the conservation futures, we have a grant already secured that's paying for 2.5. So it lowers it to a 9.9, just shy of 10 million, which is good news for us because that makes us bank qualified, so we can get cheaper rates. We're also going to continue to seek grants from the state's recreational program, as well as some RCO money. That's the Recreation and Conservation Office as well. Probably, I think we'll still try some other grants as well. And so we'll put call features on these bonds in case we do get extra money to draw those bonds off earlier. So do we have capacity? Yes, we do. The top part, our legally voted debt limit, we're at 100% right now because we're paying off the last of those library bonds this year. And then also we'll be, with this bond issue, we would be at 62%. So we're looking
Cathy,
at...
I'm sorry, could I interrupt for
Sure.
just a second? Do you happen to know what best practices is for the percentage?
What they'll look at when we go to the S&P and Moody's is they'll look at, they don't have a set number because it depends on the growth of the community. So if the community is rapidly growing like we are, it would be assumed that we would have more debt because we're building a lot of infrastructure, but we're also on the flip side have a lot of revenue coming in to pay off that debt. So, and then likewise, that assessed value number that we have up there is on the 19 for this 19 for 20, so it doesn't include all of Holland or the Fisher money, AV. So that's going to bump up too. So you have that coming.
Thank you.
So we're looking at two scenarios, and I'll walk you through both of these. It's kind of it's a really good time to be doing this. I thought last time was the best time. This time is even better right now. We're looking at two different scenarios. One that's a 20-year and one's a 25-year. The reason why we would want to consider a 25-year is it's purely land that we're looking at using this money for. So it's usually you try to size it to the life of the asset that you're buying. So with this, 25 is very prudent. We could go even 30 and still be prudent if we wanted to. And the reason why you would want to do that is because I'll show you in a little bit. It's the cash flow. It keeps it flexible, and especially if we know we're getting money coming in from other sources, and could call those bonds and free up that cash flow. It's a prudent thing to do.
Cathy, what other categories besides land would fit into the 25-year scenario?
Other things that you could do, you could stretch it with a ladder truck or a big fire engine or a brand new building, that
Okay.
type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Because the useful lives in those older, some of those apparatus are up to 20 years. So.
Thanks.
All right, so the market is really good right now, as I said. So we were trying to borrow the 9.9. In both these scenarios, we're borrowing less because we are reasonably going to receive this was as of the date on this was the 27th, and it's better now. So they're anticipating 1.3 on a 20-year and almost 1.3 on the 25 in a premium. So that's money that we are not paying back. So that's excellent. And that's why we want those high bond ratings. So again, this one will go in front of S&P and or Moody's, and so we have a chance to see if we can bump it up to a AAA. Yay. So this is the structure we're looking at. Two different ones, 20-year and 25. You'll see on the bottom, the all-in true interest cost is where we fold in all the costs as well as the premium. So that gives us that all-in interest cost. The coupons are still scheduled to be we're averaging about 4% on those coupons. But we will be only paying 2.5 or 2.8. And then you can see what the average payment would be. So it's either just over $500,000 or $600 million. $500,000. Sorry, yeah, $500,000 or the $634,000. Funding we're looking at is using parts of REIT 1, 2, and potentially parks impact fee. That's why the asterisk, because we're really kind of looking at, that's kind of more of a fluid number with the number of credits outstanding, as well as we increased those rates last year, and so we're still seeing what was reasonable to assume we can collect on those. So even in a very conservative, we're looking at still using, with REIT 1, you would still have, we would be using only, maybe we could use about $745,000. We could use the whole thing on REIT 1, a portion of it with REIT 2, a combination of it. So it's very doable. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you is that we're looking at timeline-wise. I think I can't remember if I sent that out to you. We're looking at, if council gives the head nod tonight, we would bring the ordinance back to you the next meeting. After that, in tandem, we'll be working with a preliminary official statement. We would meet with the rating agency that either most likely the first week of February, and then we would sell the bonds. We'll look at the market conditions, and so we're thinking about the third or fourth week of February to sell those, just depending on how the market goes. So we'll see how things go. So, any questions? I'd be happy.
Questions
to
for?
Oh, and I also will pass out the draft ordinance so you can see it before the next meeting too.
With these two parcels, does this complete what we have proposed for our
Yes.
legacy land purchases?
Yes, this is the last of it, correct?
And that's how many collective acres is that? 140 acres?
Nice.
Thank you.
Cathy, it sounds like
Okay.
the biggest difference here is cash flow, and that with
Yes.
a longer term matching that it's a land asset, you get better cash flow. Interest rates are pretty comparable. If you look at net present value, interest rates are really low right now. There's not a lot of difference. So we could go with a longer term, and then if we have calls and get additional funding, we'll reduce the amount of the debt.
Absolutely. I think it's very prudent deal that we could put together. I mean, it's best of all scenarios right now. So, yeah. And also, even if you were to do, say, in a worst case scenario, council approves the ordinance, if the market conditions change radically, which, in this environment, things are kind of volatile, we would come back and say, we need to take a pause on this. Even if we did this one other time where we waited almost 6 months for the market conditions were right, and we would come back to council, share the market conditions with you, and let that be your choice.
Okay.
So what did you say the premium was going to be that you thought?
About 1.3. So.
Okay. So, and where does that 1.3 impact us? Where do we feel the benefit of that?
It lowers the amount of money we're borrowing. So we still get the 9.9 in cash, but it's money that we're not repaying them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because people are looking for safety. If they're looking for safety, our bonds are rated almost as securely as you can get, other than the AAA.
Exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In February is when we're getting the rating again.
Yes.
Yes.
And the mayor will have his first rating.
We'll go for that AAA. Any other questions for Cathy?
I have one other small item. We got, as you recall, we were doing the Public Works Trust Fund loan for the traffic circle in Everett, or the intersection at Everett and Lake. And so that will also be coming in front of you, because we have to go through that ordinance process, even though the loan has been pretty much agreed to by everybody. Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have any updates? All right.
Good evening. Things were actually pretty quiet over the holidays, thankfully. So just a very quick reminder on the, since Cathy mentioned the roundabout project at Lake and Everett, we have the open house that staff is currently preparing for, that is going to be on January 23rd at 6 p.m. Be an opportunity for folks to hear about the history of the project and where it currently stands, and what the schedule is, and potential impacts moving forward during construction. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Where will it be?
Where's the meeting?
23rd at 6 p.m.
At Lackey Lake Lodge. Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions for Steve on the upcoming meeting?
Are we making any plans for potential snow next week?
There is a snowflake symbol or two if you look at your phone. So yeah, we'll be tracking that and seeing how it turns out here as we move forward. So as you know, we're likely the first to be hit with the elevations on Prune Hill. So we'll track that.
And we have a new truck.
We do.
So we'll be testing that out possibly.
Yeah.
Do we have maps, the road maps, the priority maps available for citizens if they want to come in and get them?
Yeah, so the snow and ice priority map is on the website. That's probably the easiest place for people to grab it. If they do want hard copies, we can certainly make those available and have them up at the front counter.
So, and what are those maps? They're just maps of.
So it's a snow and ice removal priority map. So we try and focus on the roads, mainly arterials, to try and remove the snow and ice there first to help make sure that people can get through the main roadways and move the goods and for emergency services as well. So we have 3 priorities as you look at the map, and we focus on the priority ones first, and then as we get those cleaned up or feel comfortable that we can move to 2s, we go to that, and if we can, we get to the 3s ultimately. So.
For de-icing before a storm, do you do the same thing, same priority routes, or try to get them all?
It depends. If we have time, we do try and get most of the areas that we know that'll get slick, and a lot of times with the de-icer, we do just like the curves and uphill or downhill stretches, not necessarily the entire road all the way through, but try and hit the main spots.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil, do you have anything for the council?
Just super brief updates. The council's probably following this, and I think most of our community is as well. The North Shore, we're going to have our next meeting on February 4th from 5 to 9. That'll be in the Camas High School Commons area. We're actually really excited about it. We're getting a lot of really good feedback through questionnaires that are still out there, opportunities to comment, and going back through our prior meeting and looking at all those questions and trying to come up with some good direction from that. So I'm excited about that meeting. I'll be working with a kayak group on February 10th. Commerce is hosting, along with the city, a meeting on GMA, the Growth Management Act. And I have to admit that I didn't write the date, time, location down on my notes, so I don't remember the specific date. Perhaps somebody else does know. Otherwise, I'll make sure that gets out there as well. So that's coming up this month. Other issues, the holidays were fairly quiet. We had last year did end up being the busiest construction season since in my time here, so in 20 years or 25 years. So it's a very busy year, but when you look at the ebbs and flows of the economy and some of the things we've been through, there's some makeup that I think that's occurred there from past years. So that's my update. Anything?
I have a question. I don't know if it would apply to you or just in general. I noticed the other day, the Chevron Center by the roundabout as you're heading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I noticed they have Amazon Dropbox attached to the Minute Mart there.
Okay.
And it's like, we don't think that far out, like for things like that, for big boxes. These are for people to go and pick up, like I've only seen them listed in Portland. If I make an order, it says you can drop or pick it up in Portland. Is this something we want to maybe kind of keep an eye on because it's a new service, or is it something, I don't know, I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, that's something new.
I don't have a specific answer for you today, but that is, as these things, emerging technologies, emerging businesses and different types of things, we want to kind of track those. What comes to mind based on what you said, and I need to go out there and look at it, but if you have a box where, in the past we've had periodicals or newspaper stands, and little things, those are smaller, but these are bigger, and we want to make sure we still have ADA compliance, accessibility, and those things. And so if we're working on a retail center or something like that might include that, we probably want to make sure that part of the design review, we make provisions for those types of things. So those are opportunity to look at our standards and make sure we have things in order. So
I'm just
thank you. That's a great one. I'll go by and look at it, just see and
like,
see what it looks like.
Yeah.
So okay. Did you have something?
Your GMA informational meeting is on January 30th at
You're-
7 p.m.
I got 6:15 to 9 at
30.
Lackey Lodge.
Lackey Lodge.
Because somebody else in the room has that information.
Thank you.
15 at Lackey Lodge.
Got it. Thank you so much. And those were my updates. Anything else right now?
Anything else for Phil? Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
Or- Next, Jennifer. We got a few things.
Hello. So my first item is the communications manager position description. So that was sent out to council earlier. I did receive some comments from some council members. So I thought the best way to do it might be to open this up for discussion between you all, as far as thoughts on the position, changes that you're looking for, things you think maybe need to be adjusted. I can take some notes, and then I can go to the tape later if I need to, and then my hope would be able to reach an agreement on a path forward, whether it's making some changes, bringing it back to you all, and then kind of proceeding from there with the position itself. So that's what I think would be a good start. See, make sure we're covering in the position what you all are wanting.
Can I ask what issues might some have wanted to change, or
I think
just for a starter?
I think it seems like it came down to maybe the level of position, whether it's a senior level position in the organization, whether it's a mid-level position, specifically whether the communications tasks that we want the person to be doing are appropriate, and as far as really being able to engage the public and have that back and forth relationship with the public.
As well as with the department heads as
As well as
well,
with
or being at that kind of level, being involved.
Okay, thank you.
When I looked through this, and we had some conversations with Bonnie, Greg, and I, first, I'm really excited that we are going to go forward with this position. In my not quite a year in the council, and then living here for many years, it's something that we very much need and need to keep up. I think communication has moved up to such a higher level, no matter what the issue is or community or organization, that we need to be right on top of it too. So I'm very excited about this, and I think that it's extremely important that we have a senior enough person with the credibility to have a seat at the table. So this person needs to be the lead on strategic communication, development of that strategy and execution in collaboration with our department heads, because this person needs to be the subject matter expert. And one thing that's become very clear to me, especially as we went through the Proposition 2, which I think brought a lot of things to head, there is a big, we have an issue with trust of our community. And as a result, one of the key responsibilities for this individual needs to be a public engagement. And that's public engagement and stakeholder engagement, whether it's working with individuals, with groups, with the press, other jurisdiction. This person needs to be our go-to person and be experienced at involving others and developing relationships and developing ongoing conversations, because communication today is about conversation. It's not just one way. It's very much around conversation. So those are a couple of things I'd like to add.
Don?
I had a couple of notes.
Excellent.
I'm sorry I didn't reach out to you sooner, so hopefully these aren't discouraging questions. First question is repped or non-repped, and should that be, is that in here?
It's at the top
Yeah.
left, right-hand side.
Oh, I see.
Non-represented.
Okay. See how thoroughly
Would be.
It was hard.
I was looking in the body.
That's okay.
To read the title. Under ability to, it says oversee, direct, and coordinate the work of lower staff and self-manage, supervise, and train, and evaluate staff. So that lends itself to me, I'm wondering, is this going to be a department staffed with numbers of people?
So ultimately, right now, this person would not be supervising any lower level staff, but it's possible as the city grows, as the duties change, that it could be in a supervisory role.
Okay, so are these two, even though we don't have that now, does that, the potential of that is that's what's, I'm a little concerned about the amount of pay it is. You know, it's 20% higher than Battleground. I'm concerned about that. And so does the pay that we're considering or that you're recommending, is that commensurate?
It factors a little bit into that. I was more concerned about having it covered in the job description in the event that they just did start supervising, so we wouldn't have to change it. Based on some of the feedback today, I'll go back and look at the comparables too, is make sure we have good comparables for any of the changes that we do make. So if removing that is part of it, then I could go back to the comparables and make sure that was appropriate.
And at a given time, the council that is here when that happens, if in fact that happens, could also adjust compensation. One thing about compensation that occurred to me, and I actually made a phone call and didn't get the current numbers, but the school district has an individual filling this exact description, and she's very, in my
Doreen,
opinion,
is that right?
very competent and capable. And so I don't know what that compensation package, but that to me would be a very valid comparable.
I think it's fairly similar to Battlegrounds, maybe a little close to that.
Yeah, because Battleground has a good
Yeah.
one too.
And I asked Jennifer earlier, I should have done some of these things that I think you said this proposes 20%.
Yes, I think
higher
that's
than
what, in the email
Battleground. So
I sent
I
you.
still like to stay in the market and be reflective of the internal comparators compensations that we do. The final thing is, I did actually saw this on one that I looked at online, and I think the school has this as well. There is a universally accepted accreditation service for this function, and it's called APR Accreditation in Public Relations. And it's actually a certification, so I would encourage that specifically to be called out, because it says PIO. Well, PIO is somebody who talks to the...
And actually, that has been since removed, the PIO. There isn't a technical PIO certification, so that was removed. There's FEMA training and things like that, but if there's APR.
You'll see it. There's actually an organization online that lends validity to this. That's
Okay.
all I have. Thank you for tolerating.
No, thanks. With Don's questions, it makes me think, because I kind of question the salary range too, and if it's just one person, but yet there's a description of a potential for supervising more, would it maybe better make sense to bring it in? Because it's new, we really don't know how fast and furious or how much work there's going to be. Maybe start it for the first year mid-level with the potential to go to a more senior level as the workload evolves or increases. I don't know how to say it because we've never had a full-time person doing all this stuff. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Yep. But I think, again, we want to have that department head level kind of person that's able to, again, be a part of our department head meetings and take that information and be a part of the team and manage those. And it's been challenging, how high is too high, based on our size, and what the scope of the job is, but realizing that it may change as well. But it is, we want to get the best person we can.
Sure.
But again, I think it's understanding how much that.
Addressing range, not where we'd start the person. That's certainly
Yeah.
the mayor's prerogative. We're in that range.
No, yeah, I'm not saying where to start. I'm just saying high senior level or kind of a mid and maybe bring it. I wasn't talking
Hierarchy,
scale.
you're talking.
Hierarchy, yeah.
A couple other things that I think are extremely important that we specify here is we've got a website relaunch coming up. And the website relaunch, I've been involved in 3 of those over the last 6 or 7 years. They're extremely organizational intensive, and it's extremely important that you have a strong partnership between your communications branding team and your IT team. So I see this role as a co-leader of that website relaunch, responsible for the development of the communication strategy and marketing and branding on that, working very closely with the IT team to make sure that they cover the back end that can deliver the desirable user experience. And in talking with Sherry, I know she's looking at going with Unicode. She sent us some examples. It looks good. So the website work and the relaunch specifically are important to be called out. And then lastly, the world has gone to data analysis, interpretation, conclusions, building a database to fact-based to build decisions on. it's very important that this individual comes in with knowledge of how to use data to interpret and to develop consumer or community insights that we can use to drive our decision making. And a lot of that has to do with sentiment that you get off your social media platforms. It's taking that feedback from all our planning meetings. We've had this master plan come out for the fire department. I mean, there's huge community engagement and database analysis and insight-driven work that needs to be done. So I understand Melissa's concern, like, geez, we haven't had this before, what are they going to do? If we bring the right person in, the top talent that we can get to add to our talented staff, we could really drive this forward and work on rebuilding trust in our community, get us the communication that we need, that's a two-way conversation, and move us forward to really build the growing city, the growing sustainable city that we need.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, yeah.
I'm with her.
The timing, and I think the timing is great as well with the website, and again, this
Yeah,
person, that
it's
would be
great.
great
Right
to
in.
be able to,
Perfect time to learn how it all works.
yeah, and that help guide, that process along the way. That's be exciting.
I think it does go without saying, though, that if you're going to get top talent, you want to pay them top talent.
Yeah.
My feeling actually is that it is a very high priority, as has already been stated. And we have to pay a little bit more than perhaps we expected, but we get the right talent, it would be very critical and important to us. So
Yeah, if they
I
can
lean
take a lot of
towards
stuff
that.
off the slate and, perfect.
Who does this person report to, Jennifer?
They would report to the city administrator, and that does need to be noted in the job
Okay.
description.
And then-
I noted that.
So I'm just throwing this out there because I want to test the environment. We'll be in process of hiring a city administrator. Has any consideration been given to waiting? What would be the implications of waiting till we had that person in place so that they could hire someone? Just throwing it out there.
I think that we can find the right person without having the city admin to do that, and I think that even as we get the new city admin, it would be advantageous to have someone that can even help with that transition as we go, but I wouldn't say that we need to wait, I think.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions or for Jennifer or about this as an overall?
I'm just going to kind of echo, because we did have numerous conversations amongst the three of us about this, so what Ellen said collectively, I think we were in agreement.
Yeah.
So it's good representation from three voices here.
Okay, so I'm hearing, I have some notes here, and also from the earlier communications back to me. So it sounds like I need to go back and make some tweaks on the job description, some adjustments. Would council prefer that I do that and bring it back to a workshop, or do that, send it on? I'll also need to look at comparables to make sure we're in the right zone. So I could do that, bring it back at the next workshop. I could do that, send it out to everyone, and just do an update at the next workshop, or however you want to do it.
It's helpful to have a little time to chew on it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Than
Send it
get
out
handed it.
first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I probably can work on that this week and then get it out, and then we can revisit it on the 21st. I think that's the right day.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
That sounds good.
Sound okay? Okay.
And if you got all the feedback, would you want to have it at the regular meeting? Would that be enough time for you to have it prepared?
When I send it out, if there's any feedback, if
Then,
anything I can get
yeah.
ahead of time that I might need to go look up or check into, ahead of time is always better.
Sure.
But anything you guys have any
Just so
time
you
is
can be
fine.
ready.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll just bring it back to the 21st workshop. Does that sound good? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And then the second item,
Executive search
yes.
or city admin?
Along those same lines, I had we received 3 proposals from the 3 organizations listed there, 3 firms, Waldron, Prothman, and Bob Murray and Associates. And I did receive some comments back from a few council members verbally and through email, just thanking me for the information, a couple of questions I was able to clarify. So again, thought you all might like to have that discussion, and then about if you have a preference on any of the firms, and then hopefully if we can get concurrence today, if there's additional information, I'm happy to go get it. If we have concurrence, we could move forward with executing a contract and start the process. So again, I guess I'd open it up to you all to share your thoughts on the proposals.
I'll go first. At least I remember using Waldron when Lloyd retired, and I had a very good interaction with that staff. The results were good, and the candidate pool twice was very deep. And there weren't easy ones to put into the no pile, at what I saw. So that told me they had a good pool at that time in both sessions.
There were not a lot to go into the no pile, right? Is that what you said?
It's hard to get them to go to the no pile.
Got it. That's good.
That's my first goal when I'm interviewing is always looking, why not?
For me, I've been involved with both Waldron and Prothman, and so I don't have an issue with either one of those because the times I was there, they were successful. So, for me.
I think I sent you my comments. City of Vancouver is using Bob Murray on a couple occasions, is currently using them, and their overhead expenses outside of their flat rate fee were $1,500. I mean, they are in California, but might be worth looking at them. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
I prefer Waldron based on experience and my knowledge of them from when I used to work. Peer reflection, both from the candidate perspective as well. This is the most important hire on our site right now.
Yeah.
And, so even though I saw Waldron is local, aren't they?
Seattle.
Waldron, they have their Seattle and Portland, they have a Portland office, so the Portland office would do the work.
So that would reduce to some extent
Expenses.
expenses, yeah. So they're my preference for lots of reasons, including what Greg said. I remember that as well.
I looked at the web presence, since so much recruiting and things are done on web, and from what I saw, Waldron and Murray had the best web presence. It was both good. The other thing that was interesting about Waldron is they really hit the inclusion and diversity side. I mean, really hard. They were hitting, and then they have their B certification, meaning that they've looked at their processes to make sure that they understand what they're giving back into society, and so that that's a good angle to have here. Is a really good lens is the diversity and inclusion, and how are we giving back to our communities.
I agree with the Waldron comments. I thought that they brought good candidates before us, and that's my vote.
Sounds like Waldron is the
Sounds like Waldron?
majority.
So with that, I can let them all know and then talk to Waldron and see about getting a contract, which can be executed without having to go on a consent agenda. So we can do that, and Mayor can sign. Away we go. And obviously more to come on the process, which will be, the first step is always interviews with key stakeholders, council members, community members. So as soon as I've connected with them, we'll connect and line up what that might look like as far as kicking things off. And then, of course, down the line, there'll be we always do kind of community open houses and enough time to an event with the candidates to meet with you all. So more to come on that. But the first step will be definitely meeting, I think, just like they did in the past, meet with all of you to make sure that they hear what your vision is and what you're looking for in the next city administrator. So as soon as I get the contract back, we'll
Looking forward to it.
Give updates on that regularly. I think that's all I have.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Thank you very much.
And I don't have any updates.
All right.
Those are my updates.
All right.
So let's we'll go around for the council members' comments. Don, we'll start with you.
Oh,
We'll go around this way. I think last time, I don't know how we went. We'll go from left to
No, I
right.
don't have much with the holiday having come and gone. The only thing that happened again, and I apologize to my peers because we hear this every day, I got a call at 1:30 a.m. asking why we're not doing something about fireworks on New Year's Eve. And, you know, it's really a tough thing to enforce because it's so random and it's dark. But I'm going to mention it because I got woke up at 1:30. So other than that, that's all I have in it. You know, it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. Talked with some homeless folks, and they don't have cell phones. Homeless don't have cell phones. At least those that are around here, they don't have cell phones. And there's also people that live in apartments here that don't have phones. And I was asked the question about why can't we have a telephone booth? We don't have a telephone booth in the whole city of Camas, so just throwing it out there. Maybe we can think about that.
Does any city have a telephone booth anymore? I mean, I'm not being
they
facetious,
do.
but
They do.
are there?
Yeah,
Seriously,
Portland
I haven't
does,
seen
yeah.
one in ever.
Let's see. I met with Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler and Senator Patty Murray concerning justice that restores. And you might ask, well, what does this have to do with Camas? Well, it has to do with community safety and being a good neighbor. I met with them concerning restoration of the Pell Grant to be made available for the incarcerated, and so that they will have a chance upon release of getting a job, of providing for their family, for paying taxes, for being a viable part of the community. And I think that this is something that I really am dedicated to. I'm a justice ambassador for Prison Fellowship, and they were very amenable to this, so I'll be meeting with them again. Let's see, I did some meet and greets with DCA, Carrie Schulstead, and that went very well. My takeaway from that was we need to get our sidewalks in shape and lighting for side streets for safe pedestrian traffic. Also met with Robert Wall, went over the North Shore sub-area plan, answered many questions. He was very patient with me, and I really appreciated that. Jerry Acheson, another patient man, had a lot of questions there, and we went over previous and current land acquisitions and what's going to be done with that. Let's see. Also, I had noted that Mike's Tire and Auto, even though that they're in Schugle, they're having a really hard time because of the fire. The laundromat caught on fire, and it looks like the whole building's gone, but he's not. He's still in business. So I called up the Post-Record, and they're going to do an article on him, and actually they should be there now interviewing him. So try to get him back in business. That's a good neighbor. That's what we need to do.
And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this story.
The laundry burnt down. It's co-located with Mike's Tire and Auto. It's in the same building. The building's caved in, and it looks like his business is out of service. So,
But he's still there.
yeah. So hopefully they'll be. Kelly was amenable to doing an article on him, and I hope that they got that done today. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right.
I am going to be missing the next meeting. I have business travel that I have to attend to, and I'm sorry I won't be here, but I will watch on TV after the fact and see what we've covered. I've done some serious reading on homeless. AWC came out with a publication and kind of did a deep dive on that during my last 2 weeks off from work, and there were a lot of things that took place at the state level to try to encourage changes so that homelessness could be perhaps proactively addressed. And if you remember when from Sarah Fox, when she presented some information, we had till January 31st to kind of make a declaration as to where we were going to move. There's a lot of potential options, and that's almost an impossible task for a council to pick up quickly and go through. But my suggestion is that we try to get ahead of a big homeless problem in our city and come up with strategies, try to develop strategies on how we're going to help the people that need help. And I talked to a person that works at the city of Gresham, and they've done some work, and lots of other cities in the state have done work and have set some things out. And years ago we had Mitch come to us and kind of lay out where he thought we ought to be on homelessness, or gave suggestions on what we could and couldn't do. And my thought for our council is that we ought to begin to try to develop a strategy and be sure we get ahead of it. And there are a lot of stakeholders that'll be involved, but I'm throwing it out there so that we get it on the table. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I had lunch with the mayors last month, and that was a big topic of Clark County mayors. And again, it puts things in perspective as well. And again, I think our challenges are, we don't have the same kind of challenges which other people do as well. So that we can, it's a tough one. Thank you. Craig?
Nothing other than the enjoyable holidays period. But going forward, I've got a C-Tran Board of Directors orientation tomorrow morning to relearn what's new with C-Tran, since I've been away for a couple of years. And then the next board meeting is the following Tuesday. So that'll be my first adventure with the new board composition members. So see how that goes. I haven't seen the agenda yet. Maybe you know what's on the agenda?
Pardon?
Anything coming forward on the
C-Tran?
I haven't seen it
No, I
yet.
meant from the last one carried forward. It was
No. It's basically they're still on the BRT on Mill Plain discussing that. That's the big.
That Columbian article was very interesting about the bus.
I thought that was good visibility on that.
Can't wait to see that bus.
Well, part of it was the community didn't get a good understanding that that's what C-Tran was doing. It wasn't what Camas or each of the cities did. They did that as part of the service they provide. So
I mean, the pictures on the side of it with the cameras, it was...
That was their initiative, not something we did on our...
I don't think did they have our picture on the... They did? I remember I couldn't find it at first. Maybe I was looking in the wrong spot, but...
Well, it's in the system now.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah. It was in the Camas Days Parade. It was the first unveilings.
Oh.
That's all I have.
Mondays, it's Camas Youth Advisory Council, and our Cathy came and talked about government and public sector finance. She got a lot of great questions and good conversation. And this week I have Columbia River Economic Development Council meetings, both for investors and directors. And they have a program coming up next Thursday, I believe it is, on economic development, a panel of people to talk about what's going on in future trends. It's always interesting to go to those breakfasts. You can sign up. And that is it. Thank you.
I don't have a lot either. To add to Steve's comments about the homeless, I did read some information, some comments from citizens on social media over the break regarding some tents popping up around in the city and our treat areas. So I think the sooner we look at it, the better. I also received, I think, Steve, you got the same email from a citizen about an ADU variance he's requesting, so I forwarded that on to staff, and we'll follow up with them to see what we can assist with on that. And then I've got meetings coming up, Library Board of Trustees on Thursday night. Always a good time.
Sounds like fun. Melissa?
Well, just Happy New Year to everyone. The only thing I had was design review, back on the 18th, and we did The Kitty Academy, which will have a nice little design, and I honestly do not remember where that's going to be located at this point. I mean, even on here. And then we did a design review for Buddha Curry Duplex, which will be on Benton, almost kitty corner from Deanna's house on the other side of Franklin. Other than that, I've got RTC tomorrow just to cover for Wash Shovel because they haven't made the appointments yet, their appointments, so I'll be there for that. And then there's a planning retreat coming up for parks that I'll be going to. We have our planning retreat, and then a week after that, I have a planning retreat with the Fort as the new liaison, so I'll be attending. I'll be having more stuff coming up. It's just been slow right now, which has been nice.
Good. And then I was at the town hall this weekend at the Port of Camas and Washougal with, I met the State Senator Ann Rivers, as well as Brandon Vick and Larry Hoff, who are state representatives. I was down at First Friday. I was one of the clues for that. They had a clue-themed one, and I was not the murderer, which I was grateful for, which would have had a different feel to it. I got to spend some time with Lloyd Halverson as well. I get to spend a couple hours with him over at Mesa, and it was great just to get his perspective and background on Camas. Let me see here. Again, I spent some time with Cathy and Don and Greg going through just the fire and really trying to still get my head around that, all of that, which is a lot. And then before Pete went, myself and Jennifer went down and just really went through all of the things that were on his plate, what the things that are managing, and then we're working with the department heads and really just making sure that nothing kind of gets lost in the interim. I had a very long meeting today with the department heads, and we went through a lot, but I'm feeling very good. Those meetings are going to be very important for us, I think, as we are in this transition, just making sure we're all on the same page. Other than that, I went to the high school, so I gave them their proclamation for the football and track team. That's 2,000 students, and I mean, I haven't been to high school for quite some time, but it was overwhelming when you walk in there with just it's intimidating, you know. And then it was just a bunch of holiday luncheons that I got to spend with the teams as well, which was great. So it's been busy. I've never been busier. And then I did want to just bring up because we have our planning retreat coming up, and this is something that's new for me, but I just want to kind of get your guys' take on that, or as we're kind of, are these beneficial, or are these beneficial for us in the format that they're in? Yes, Greg? Yeah. And what do you find the most beneficial, or what's the best way to approach these?
Okay, guys. Step up.
I would say the best thing is the fact that we can spend time on topics instead of just, okay, we got another agenda item coming right behind it.
We can have some actual conversations and topics on key things.
Deep dives on those things that need a chance to reflect on what someone else said rather than just what you want to say.
Right. I like it when we can just jump in and just focus on our issues, like they're saying, and really take time and discuss some stuff.
And again, I'm trying to. This is framing up as what we want for the year as well, right? As far as what those kind of focuses are. So,
I look at it as a strategic meeting.
Yeah.
These are tactical meetings. We're trying to address things that have been kind of percolating, and they've come up, and we shoot at them and just deal with them on the spot. But in the annual meeting, we strategically think through what are the real needs for the city, and what things should we bring out and put onto the table. And
so when you bring up like the homelessness, would that be something then that you'd want to kind of have in that kind of meeting there as well?
What should we do at the legislature? How should we do it?
How are we doing with the annexation building?
These are great ones. And then from a fire standpoint, it's Don Biven, is that, am I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bivens.
Do we want, Don is available Friday. I don't know if you guys have questions specifically to that, but we want to let him know if that's the case. Is that someone that we want to have there? Do we need that? Do we not need that? What are your guys? Nick, we're just talking about Don, seeing if he's,
Well, I'm going to speak for Don, but he last spoke that he had some questions he wanted some response on. That I don't remember you ever asking the questions, so I don't know what they're about.
We never had an opportunity.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that's
It
what
almost feels like to me that it's not, I mean, it's a special thing, but it may not be unique. I don't know. I mean, I hear the peers here. Do we spend time and energy on that at a planning meeting, or can we do it at a workshop? I think that, for me, is the question. The workshop seems to be sort of visionary and working on things that maybe aren't routine, although the fire thing is a big deal. The fire
it's something we have to
Huge.
figure out.
So do we want to engage it there? I mean, I'm open. I'm not.
I think it would fall under the
But
strategic.
I want to leave my comments, thank you for inviting, that we need to have enough information to help us, and it's going to be more than one meeting for me, to have questions, to have answers to questions, and then for us to give a comment and focus on what parts of it or all of it that we may adopt, including the EMS study, which we never addressed. So it's a big bite.
So it may be more beneficial to figure out how we're going to structure our conversation
And
in this meeting,
and sequence it.
and then we can start to then figure it out from there, and we can put dates on the table of when we want to have maybe
That
more
makes sense.
specific.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, if we did it like you're saying, then at what point, when we've kind of gone through, asked our questions, got our answers and stuff, do we kind of merge up with Washougal and see what their review process has been, what questions they have, and how good of a connect or disconnect or what we see between the two, which would be done. But we have to have that discussion somewhere around down the road.
Yeah. And then Jeff Snell had hosted these before. Is that someone we want to continue? Is it necessary, unnecessary?
Yeah, it's good.
That's a good call.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good call.
He's
Keep-
good, but I don't think it's necessary. Personally, having attended 15 of these,
You don't think what's necessary?
having a facilitator outside facilitator. I mean, we know what we're doing. It's strategic. It's just
I
a
think
higher
so, but
level
it kind of gets, on occasion, it does get kind of nice to have somebody holding us to task and moving us to the,
Yep.
we give, an hour and a half or an hour on topics, and then if we're going to drag it to 2 hours, at least we have somebody that can say, ring a bell and say, hey, come on, we're supposed to move on.
We'll do a check-in. And
Yeah.
we're gonna change it. So yeah, having facilitated meetings like that and participated in meetings, I'd rather be a participant than trying to also be a facilitator
Yeah.
and participate.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's very hard.
Very
to
hard.
bounce back and forth that role.
Yeah, I like, and Jeff's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Great.
I'd also, this will be my second one, and it was like my first thing I did last year, so it's kind of like the tsunami wave. I hardly remember it all.
Yeah, well,
One of the things I noticed is I think it'd be useful to start with our strategic plan and to do a check-in with where we are against that plan before our staff gets up and talks about their plans, because we need to make sure that we're tying to that strategic direction, and if we've had changes, then we purposefully go through that to make sure that we've agreed to those changes. Because often it's easy in a workshop situation to have, oh, Steve, go work on this now, and yet it wasn't in the plan, and we didn't purposely decide it, it just happened. So it's very important that we take a step up and keep this at a strategic level, and if it starts getting too far down, that's where our facilitator comes in and says, we can take this off at a workshop. But it's at higher level, connecting it to our medium level. We shouldn't be down in the tactics.
Well, and it is, if I can add.
Please.
Our third year, we're starting our third year of our strategic plan that we developed. So I would imagine that would be part of this planning conference, is to see where we are and how we're summing that up, because we did put a lot of effort into creating that.
I think that's probably the best place to start, right? Because then that frames up everything else. It's this is the strategic plan. Let's evaluate where we're at, and then kind of go from there. So I'll tinker with that a little bit as well. But
I
think
agree
those
with
are-
Ellen. I think road mapping and knowing, having some expectations
Yeah.
for outcomes just in those 2 days has value.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I want it to be. I want us to come out with some value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're going to be spending there, I don't want to waste our time or talk about just stuff. Like I want it to be.
No.
We coming out with some real, and I think it's important right now that we kind of get on the same page with that stuff.
Well, the other thing we need to talk about is we had a bond issue that we put on and that we failed tremendously. The 83% of the bonds that were put in the state of Washington passed, so something wasn't right. And I think we need to have a very strong and open, honest conversation about what happened, what have we learned, and what will we do differently in the future. And this is an opportunity to have that. And that is a conversation that definitely needs to be facilitated and planned in advance.
I agree. I think that would be just
I think
getting
that's
that
great.
out then, and then we
Yep.
can move forward.
Yep.
You know, but I think it is. Yeah.
Sorry, just on a side note, I just looked at my calendar. Excuse me, my dog is having surgery the day before our planning retreat. That was the earliest they could get him in. So.
You
I'm
bringing
just
your
putting
dog?
it- Pardon?
Will you be bringing your dog?
I might be
Possibly.
holding him
Okay.
and cradling him, you know.
Good stress reducer.
Yeah. Because he'll be out of it a bit, but
Anything else? Any other thoughts on the meeting coming up, or thoughts in general? No.
As you're planning this, I would recommend that we start with the outcomes, the desired outcomes, and we may need to align on that at our next meeting, but I'm not sure who plans this, but come hear the desired outcomes that we want to have, and hear the people that we need to hear from to get to those desired outcomes, and then also be very, very purposeful about the connections between these, because we need to take a systems perspective and make sure that we've got the processes and the capabilities lined up to deliver on those strategies. And sometimes it's very easy just to talk about the top layer and not the glue.
And that's this is our meeting.
Yep.
This is our meeting, not. Yeah. So I agree.
And there may be outcomes that staff wants to hear from us.
Exactly.
It's not just one way.
Yeah, we need the staff's input too, because they're seeing things on the ground that we're not seeing.
Right.
And I think that the way that we've formatted now the department head meetings and getting that information and how we're going to be organizing, I'll be able to streamline a lot of this on our Monday meetings as well, giving you guys the updates as far as what the key things are happening in their worlds, and making sure that you guys are in the loop with that. Any other comments from the council? Well, then I open it up to the.
I'm sorry, I had a mouthful of water when you said that.
Waited just for that right time.
That's fine. In the past, we've had the topics in advance to kind of, these rise to the top of
absolutely.
being worthy. I'm not trying to edit them necessarily, but just, or, oh, wow, we still have room for more. And some of the ones that people said, oh, it's going to be too full, they didn't bring them forward. So if we, somewhere in this, between now and a few days in advance, see the topics that are being listed, and then we can kind of.
Yeah, and I like tying it back into the strategic plan as well, like, because I think that's where that's the measurement tool as well, to see how we're
You
doing.
can't have a 7-course meal in 3
Yes.
hours.
And they do a good job.
And let's remember, it's a process for the public to digest. There are opportunities for them to comment, but really, in the new world today, this is an opportunity. So if we do what Greg said, that we can advertise it so that folks will know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
points
their
that we're
interest in?
going to
And not necessarily by an agenda level at that
Right.
stage, but just
Topical.
what's topical.
No, I think that'd be great. And then one other thing before I forget, with the 2020 citizen appointments, there's going to be one adjustment from what is originally there from what will be there. So we had someone resign from the Parks and Recreation Commission. So we're going to do a quick switch and talking with the team. I'm going to move Phil Williams, who was on the Salary Commission, into that Parks and Recreation Commission. So that'll be the only changement. We will still have another opening that we'll then follow up on later on.
Okay. Who resigned, by the way?
It was Dorina Stepaniak.
oh, really?
Public comments. So we have another minute here for public comments. Yes, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Wayne Pattison, 2919 Southeast 2nd Avenue, and I actually, this is the third time I've come to specifically talk about something, and this group has already laid it all out. So you're doing really well. Keep doing it. Homeless. That's a very difficult subject. We can all come up with what the problem is, but we don't do well as a society or communities to deal with it. And Camas and Washougal haven't had to deal with it very much. But I can tell you from being at the community center in Washougal every day, virtually, it's getting, they're getting kicked out of other communities, is what's happening. And so then I've had people tell me what's going on, but down on the trail along the river and over by the railroad tracks, a good park back in behind over by the concrete plant, they're moving in there, and you'll hear people's cars are getting torn into and stuff getting stolen. It ends up getting dumped over there by the railroad tracks, and I don't know whether the chief's tangled with that very much of that yet, but I'm not against, well, how do you put that? I'm not against homeless. I don't want anybody to think that I'm down on the homeless, but we've got to get ahead of that problem before it becomes Vancouver, the way Vancouver and Portland's a disaster.
Yes.
It's scary.
And we don't want to go there. So keep talking about it.
Thank you.
I don't got solutions.
Thank you.
John?
Good evening, John Lee from Camas. I want to learn more about the Legacy Lands project and how much have we purchased and what did we pay already? I see this is the end of a process. How much have we bought? This is we the people's money, and therefore it's one thing in my mind to spend $10 million if we're going to expand sewer capability or add to our water or build new roads, something that the people will use long term. My rough guess is this is setting aside lands that we will enjoy perhaps looking at or maybe walking along a trail, but that don't provide a productive service for our people of handling garbage or roads or things like that. And so what I don't know, and I welcome answers but don't need to have, is there a web page that describes all the area that we ultimately have acquired and what have we paid and where are we going, so that the people can understand what's this $10 million purchase for, what's it going to look like. At the end of the day, my rough wag says that's about 8% of our annual budget. So that's not an insignificant amount of the people's money to spend. But I'll tee that up, and there's no answer that's necessary right now, but I would hope that perhaps more light could be shed, and if I missed the web page that's already there, I humbly apologize, but we're eager to learn more about what we're doing with our money and why.
And it's something that I just recently learned myself in the full scope, but I don't know, do we have it on the website? Is there a section for that? No? But it's something that in the upcoming meetings, that's something that is a topic that I want to go and kind of show that bigger picture. But in the interim, I can certainly send you some information that has that, and that's maybe something we could get on the website as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments from anyone? You want to come on up? You got 3 minutes there.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. We're talking about homeless people, and my wife and I have been talking about it. I'm kind of an economic student, and I wanted to talk about GBI, Global Basic Income in Homeless People. Global Basic Income is where the city, the state, or the federal government will actually give people $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month. And it's theirs to spend. That money will go right back into the system. Most of them are going to spend it. The lower echelon income, they will spend that money on basic needs, retail stores, groceries, rent. We could cut back on food stamps and other federal projects. People would be able to afford health care, get the kids off the streets into homes so they can go to school. So it's global basic income, and it's out there on the internet. You can Google it and look at it. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick was earthships. We have spent the last 2 or 3 years building a lot of homes, and I have not seen one solar panel go up. More homes could have solar panels, and that would reduce the amount of energy coming from Bonneville, for instance. More homes. I have 2 examples. My house in Seacliff Beach. I could put, for $50,000, I could put panels on that house, and it would run the meter backwards 2 to 3 months a year, and the PG&E bill would be very expensive, $5. Santa Cruz people are putting up panels, and the utility company is helping them do it. Also, on my house in Flagstaff, Arizona, the utility company came to my house and said, we want to put panels on your house at no charge. So they would put the panels up, and we would benefit by getting the energy, reduce our cost to the grid, and by sending excess energy back into the grid. So there are city governments, PG&E, and also in Colorado and Arizona that want to help people put solar panels on their houses. Now, earthships, that's a really neat building. It's built out of mostly recycled materials, tires, glass bottles. They're built not to consume. Most of the houses we build today are built to consume energy. Earthships are designed, they can be off the grid, they collect their own water. We can reduce the amount of water in our community, and we could put Camas on the map as a beacon for new technology in housing. With earthship technology, you can take in 1 drop of water, and you can recycle that 1 drop. You can expand it out gallons. And the theory is 1 drop of water can be recycled or used 5 times over. So the water comes into the house, say in the kitchen, the main kitchen. That's where your water is going to be used most of all. And the water goes down the drain. It goes down the drain into recycled separate tanks. Tanks for, it's called gray water. RVs. My RV had both things. So the water can be used to flush toilets, wash clothes, take showers. People on spaceships are really good at this kind of stuff. And actually, the gray water can be used over and over. And then the black water will go down into another tank using solar panels or energy, and anaerobic bacteria would eat up most of that waste. And what comes out the other end is water that's clean enough to water your plants and shrubs, maybe wash your car. So I'd like to see more talk about that and using this kind of technology.
I'm going to do lots of Googling now. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any other public comments? Seeing that there's no other public comments, I'm adjourning this meeting.